Hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Reviews for yet another episode. And in today's episode, I definitely have a different kind of review for you. Because in today's review, I'm going to be reviewing the movie Inside Out 2, which did actually come out in June, but I didn't get the chance to see the movie in the same month that it came out because I'm not somebody that wanted to go and see this movie right away. Because now, like, one of my sisters wanted to see the movie with me, so that gave me a reason as to why I wanted to see the film. But I'm not going to beat around the bush when it comes to that. I don't need to explain that. It's just kind of irrelevant, alright? So there's that. But so when it comes to Inside Out 2, right, I'll give you a bit of context. So Inside Out, the original, is obviously the first movie in this franchise. And for me personally, just to give you a bit of context, I thought that the original Inside Out, yes, it was enjoyable and I did have a good time with this movie. But for me personally, compared to some other animated movies, it wasn't like the best animated movie of all time. And maybe that's because it's like 9 years after the movie came out, and so I'm kind of late to the party of rewatching it, and so it feels a kind of bit different, if you know what I mean. When you watch something so many years later, it kind of has a different effect when you watch it, if you know what I mean. So there's that. And so I'd say the movie is very enjoyable. Like, one of my favourite parts about the movie was actually Anger. He's very hilarious, and Joy was quite fun, and it's meant to be a very sad movie while also being quite funny at the same time. And so you get to see these kind of like different emotions play out, whether you would have the sadness, the anger, the fear, the disgust kind of play out in this movie, to where you got to see how Riley's mind would work, because she is supposed to be the main character of this franchise, right? But then you've also got the emotions that's supposed to like contribute to this whole thing and stuff like that, and they kind of play around with her mind. So that's what the movie's about, and I thought, it's enjoyable enough, but I wouldn't say it's like the best movie of all time. Like, I enjoyed it, but yeah, that does that, right? So to cut to the chase here, Inside Out 2, I'm not going to spoil this movie, and also I did get to see this a couple nights back, and so I've given myself enough time to think about it. And so Inside Out 2, right, Inside Out 2 is the sequel to Inside Out from 2015, where we get to see how the rest of this franchise turns out. So you get to see the familiar emotions, the whole like joy, anger, disgust, fear, stuff like that. But in this movie specifically, what you do get to see is a new kind of interest and emotion, where you get anxiety, and then you've got envy and boredom and embarrassment and stuff like that. So there's definitely that to it. So how do I feel about this movie? So there is so much that I can talk about with Inside Out 2, because I was absolutely like surprised at this movie. And what do I mean by that? So as somebody that obviously is someone who isn't like this person where I thought Inside Out is the best movie of all time, I was absolutely surprised to know that this movie isn't one of those sequels where it's just like they're rehashing the original, banking off of the success of the original, but it actually has a very original like storyline within a familiar franchise, where we get to see how the new emotions kind of add a new perspective into Riley's life, and it goes so hard into this point where you get to see all the trauma, the sadness that comes of this. And for a while, it feels like anxiety is the villain of this movie, just controlling her mind, and then Joy wants like Riley's mind back again, and it's this constant fight. And you learn more about the whole Inside Out universe, and there's a lot of cool stuff like that, and there's a lot of really cool animation in this movie. You know, I wouldn't say it's like Spider-Verse levels of animation, Puss in Boots 2 levels of animation, but it definitely has detailed animation, and you could tell that they spent a while actually cooking up the animation on this movie. It was very well done animation, to say the least. There's a few surprising things about the movie that I wasn't expecting either. Because when it comes to anxiety in media as a whole, right, there's this whole thing where anxiety isn't really talked about much, and then there's people like, oh, you have anxiety, oh my god, you're so anxious, what the heck, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about this topic, but the way it goes into it is very detailed, there's a lot of layers, and I did enjoy that about the movie. And obviously the original voice actors and the original kind of emotions, they were still funny in this movie, and obviously anxiety was good. And so that's what I would say about this movie. There is a lot of ways in which I could say stuff about this film, but I wanted to keep it short and sweet instead of just going on and on and on and on and doing a giant deep dive. So out of 10, I'd give this maybe like an 8 or 9 out of 10. I was very surprised by the film, and I want to say that it's actually better than the original, but the original, it's still enjoyable, and it had this original fresh idea to it. But the second movie still had a lot to offer where I was just absolutely enjoyed by it. So maybe eventually I will rewatch the second one a bit more than the first one. And I do expect them to do a third movie where they'll probably include a bit more ideas about different emotions of Riley's life and things of that nature. And it's good to see it's making $1 billion because it is a very good movie. So yeah, that's my review on Inside Out 2. See you next time for more reviews on the review show. It did take me quite a few takes to do this because it isn't a movie you can just like rush all your thoughts out on because there's so much to talk about. So that's it. Bye, bye, bye. See you next time for another review on the James Ramlin Reviews. Bye.